Continuing from our last video, this will be the audio editing portion of the lesson. In order to start your audio, you need to make sure that your video edit is in its final cut form, or it's on a lockdown at this point, meaning you're not changing anything, so that whoever's editing the audio won't have to do extra work if you decide to change your mind and change the edit, because all their work will have to be repositioned again. All right, so it's very important that you understand what final cut means, so that most likely you will be the one audio editing this. So if that's the case, it might not be such a big issue if you don't mind doing extra work. But let's say you're giving it to some other individual and their sole purpose is just to do the audio edit, and you told them it's a final cut, final lockdown, and then you change your mind, and that means they would have to do extra work. All right, so we only add the sound effects and whatnot when you are done with the video edit, which is what we call final cut. Okay, so we put some silly sound effects here. All right, just so that we have a music in the back, we got two sound effects. Right, so I'm kind of put this to a minimal so that it would be a lot easier to digest, because you guys will have to put so many sound effects here based on the available library that we have, and plus you're allowed, part of the rubric for the homework is that, or sorry, project is that you can, as long as they're royalty free sound or sound effects that you made your own, music that you made your own or you got permission. All right, so you can use any of those, but we don't want to use any copyrighted material. Okay, so main issue here would be understanding what volume or gain of sound effects are relative to the position of the audience in the screen. All right, so when part of cinematography that we're going to talk about later in editing is the subjective and objective point of view, or point of view positioning of your audience. All right, sometimes they're far away from what's happening, sometimes they're really close, sometimes they are the protagonist or they're the main character from a point of view standpoint. Then the sound is perceived differently. The closer they are to the action, the louder it is. All right, so certain things that's happening on the screen right here, right, because it's really close, it probably needs to be really loud. But there's certain sounds, like on this one, where they're super high up here. All right, that sound's going to be far, because look at the audience right here, way down the bridge looking up, and you would hear those sound very faint, right? And then this bike right here will start falling, and then that one continues on its trajectory that height. It gets closer to the audience, so it's going to get a little loud. But this one for sure, engine wise, it's going to get louder and louder the closer it gets to the actual position of the audience. Okay, so first thing we need to do now is learn how to control that. But the best way to work on your detailing is the track view. Okay, your timeline view options, how you can make this thumbnails, video thumbnails, film thumbnails, and audio waveform get bigger or smaller. Right, so this is the option right here. We click this, we have presets. Okay, first one is this simply shows your waveform. Why is that even an option to turn it off? This could take and eat up resources when you are constantly magnifying your screen. Refreshing this takes a toll on the computer sometimes. It's the same thing with video. Okay, watch this one on a video. So this is the full film strip, hence you get to see progression of strips or video frame in the timeline itself. When I change it to thumbnail, you only get the beginning and end, blank in between. Okay, so now you're only refreshing two, so less resource taking on the computer. Last one is basically plain, is what it's called. Notice how your video and your audio representation here kind of shrunk, and you don't get any waveform. That's simply because this is probably best for laptops with small screens, or a computer that kind of struggling with the constant refreshing of the thumbnails, especially when they're on the film strip. All right, but for teaching purpose, I have to use this one, so you kind of get to see everything here a lot easier. Okay, so let me go back there. Okay, And this one right here, if you click this on, that gives you the waveform. You can also change the track height of the video so they're bigger. In our case, we don't really need to because we could see right here what you're actually watching. However, it makes it a little harder to work on the audio when those things are small. So I'm just going to increase the track height on the audio right there. Okay. So now let's take a look at this one and then kind of listen. All right, broken it there. Maybe move that a little bit closer here. So as you can see here, when I'm moving this, look at that major jump. I couldn't even move it slightly right here simply because my snapping tool is on. So the magnet tool, what it does, it snaps it to any cuts or beginning and end of video. However, when you're doing precise edit, that gets kind of hard because it's still trying to snap it to those areas. So one of the few times, I'm going to magnify this plus sign a little bit. Here you go. One of the few times you want that thing off because it's very useful. You do want to snap all the time, but 99% of the time. That 1%, when you're fine-tuning your position, you don't want to. Okay, I'm going to turn that off so I can freely move this. Watch this one just kind of move freely without jumping to those cuts. Okay, so all right, so let's say that's good enough right there, and then the squealing starts right here. Yeah, maybe a little too early. Okay, let's say that's good enough. All right, so we're talking about audio here, right? Audio gain. So if you see this line right here, when you position your cursor, it changes to an up and down arrow. That means you can increase the volume or decrease the volume. Keep in mind, we're just kind of playing with this, all right? We're going to have our audio meter kind of on so you can actually see the level so you don't actually go higher, you don't clip your audio. Okay, right there. minus 6, -5, all right, depending on but some of this audio are not really performed, they're not really meant for, the quality is not really there, so some of them they start breaking down when you increase that. But let's just kind of bump it up just a little bit so you can increase your volume or decrease your volume. When it decreases all the way, it's almost you're muting it, you're not going to hear anything. All right, so right there, we don't want any clipping. All right, so let's say, all right, good enough for now. All right, and then we want the squeal to be higher volume also.